Close the door. What's your name again, kid?
You forgot? Yonatan.
Okay. So you want me to talk a little about Aseret Tshuva? Really, you should talk about whatever you want. Let's see. Yonatan. Jack.
Oh.
I was close.
Yaakov.
Yeah.
Yaakov. See, I thought. Joel.
Oh,
Wow.
And Jonathan.
wow.
Yaakov, Jonathan. You got Michael. David.
Wow.
What's his name?
Jack.
Jack.
Yeah, he's new.
And Sam and David Shlomo, formerly known as. Who were you?
Dylan, I think.
Dylan,
it's
Christopher. I
pronounced.
don't know. You know, a guy at Asia Torah, I only do beginners. So, once a guy decides he's changed, instead of Christopher, he's Chaim, he's not my problem anymore. We hand him off to the Rosh Hashiva, So, what is tshuva? Actually, so really, what's your Hebrew name, Joel?
Yosef Binyamin.
Yosef Binyamin.
Go by Yossi.
So, the prayers that we started, we do 10 days of tshuva. The 10 days, 10 days of awe, Yom Noraim, the 10 days of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, 10 days of tshuva, and the concept is day number 1 is judgment, harsh judgment. Day number 2 is a little bit of mercy. Day number 3, till day number 10 is only mercy. What's gematria in Judaism? Gematria? What's that, Joel?
The numerical value associating numbers to letters and then understanding the numbers behind the words.
Yeah.
I was just told by my wife this morning that gematria of Yossi is the same as Elkim.
That goes to show. Well,
She's on some different levels. Yeah.
so gematria, that's really, gematria is from the Greek. Gematria. Alphabetic gamma is 1, 2, 3. Gematria, the third letter is the third number. Okay, so gematria. It's a common understanding. Avinu Malkeinu. Prayers that start on Rosh Hashanah, and we do all the 10 days into Yom Kippur, except for Shabbos. Translate.
Father,
Our Father,
our Father, our King.
Okay, so one way to see it is, okay, so which one is he? Is he your father? Or is he your king?
both,
Oh,
all.
No, never all. Both. And a lot of people say, well, if God is infinite, we're not going to go into that yet. We may get there. A father, our king. And so one way of saying is both. And therefore, I am a prince on the one hand, but really have to see it both ways. On the one hand, my father wants the best for me. On the other hand, the king, he's also the king. So, why can't your father just forgive you? Your father can forgive you. All right? That's, of course, why you're married, Joel. See, you already come into this world with one major relationship. Parents. And that you stay a child until you get married. On the one hand, parents are the relationship you did not choose. Right? While marriage is the one you do.
relationship with yourself, you also don't choose.
What?
The relationship with yourself, you also don't choose.
Well, yeah, that's true, but we're not sure if that's really there. But we'll hold it. It's, in the end, you do because, let's look at it. Your parents are you didn't choose who your parents are going to be. And at a certain point, you have to leave behind the relationship you didn't choose with the relationship you did. The one with you is always both. The strength of the relationship that you didn't choose is that it's much more, because it's there regardless of you. Your parents chose to have it. And then God created a world where you're such a doofus. I mean, it's like if you would be a puppy dog. Nothing personal, Joe, but if you were a puppy dog, day number 2, you find a little puddle and lick up some water. You know, as a human being, day after day, month after month, year after year. I think if you're a yeshiva guy, decade after decade, you need your mom to take care of everything, right? Until you get married, then she takes care. You come into a relationship you did not choose. And it almost doesn't make a difference who you are, because your parents are there. They were giving to you. At a certain point, you have to pull out of that relationship as your primary relationship and get married. All right, get married, have kids. But think about it. What is, according to Judaism, what is the absolute number one primary relationship that you always are in?
You and God.
You and God. Whether you know it or not. Right? By the time you come into existence, I remember there was one guy at age, I learned my best stuff from students. You know, the Talmud says you learn more from your students than your teachers. It says that Rabbi Berger, the one who put together the Mishnah, I learned a lot from my rabbis, learned more from my chabrusas, my friend, my talmidas. You learn the most from your students. You're stuck with rabbis at first, but you really learn from teaching. At a certain point, you have to leave behind the relationship you didn't choose to the relationship you did. Now, what do you say, Jack? Jack, what's your Hebrew name?
Yitzhak Meir.
It's your mayor. That's, you know how holy that one is. Okay. Jack, right? You leave behind the relationship you didn't choose, the relationship you did choose. Your wife. Which one more mirrors your relationship with God? You and your parents, or you and your wife?
Me and my wife.
Both.
They're both there. They're both there. Because you have a relationship with God that you did not choose. And therefore, no matter what, it's kind of there when you're a child.
Well, when you argue, like if you're about tshuva or something like that, you did actually choose to have the relationship.
Every religious Jew is about tshuva, because he's both an animal and a human being, and therefore he's doing it in a way that's more natural. While the Baal Tshuva, the guy who becomes Baal Tshuva, he comes from a world where 99% of them never make it. Because in fact you're also, well, are you an individual or are you part of a group? Joe?
Both.
But which are you more?
Depends on when.
In its totality, are you more individual or more part of a group?
Functioning is.
I mean, I guess probably more part of a group.
I don't know. What do you say, John?
I was gonna say that functioning not through the lens of a greater collective, you're primarily functioning as an individual, your own selfish needs, your own desires, and then, B'ezrat Hashem, you can shift to becoming more part of a collective community and something with a bigger cause.
Or just collective as a husband and wife.
Is what?
Or just as a collective as a husband and wife.
Jesus would say you are both individual and part of a group. The ideal is to make you more and more of a you in your relationship with God. But in fact, you're 99% part of a group. Baal Tshuva, okay, 98. But human beings have been making decisions for the last 5,786 years. And you'd be shocked to know how who you are is so massively the result of that world. A Baal Tshuva is different than most because most people are stuck with the decisions of others. Picture a guy who was raised, were you raised more non-observant?
Yeah.
Raised non-observant by Jewish parents.
Yeah.
All right, so 100 generations ago, God gave the Torah to the Jewish people. My family is Orthodox, and my parents, and my grandparents, they were. So from Sinai till now, I'm roughly generation number 100 of my family in the giving of the Torah. It's much, 3,300, but you don't live your life on years. You live it as a life. I'm generation number 100 since the giving of the Torah. And the average person covers 5 generations, actually, so it's even less of a jump than you think. The average person communicates with his grandparents' generation and his parents and his peers and his children's generation and his grandchildren. So you have 100 generations, the average person spans 5. But picture the majority of the Jews today who are not Torah observant. The Talmud identifies Shabbos observant as in or out. It doesn't mean you can't do tshuva, but it's basically dropping Shabbos basically will cut off like 99. Those people, 1% may do tshuva. And I always had this argument with Rabbi Noah Weinberg. You can get the whole Jewish people back. Not a chance. But,
what does that mean? You don't get them? They're not.
90.
They're not in the Lavav.
1 minute. What's so funny?
you're in no Weinberg discussion. Not a chance.
That's why I lasted so long here, because he loved people arguing with him. But do you think you can? Come on, be real.
It has to
Not at
be.
this moment.
You know what can get 6 million Jews to do tshuva? Walking them naked into a gas chamber, maybe. People don't do it. We are stuck by the way we were raised, and the world around us creates us. Right? You think about it. And that's why I love teaching at Eshet Torah. Every one of you guys at this table are not normal.
That's true for me before I was at this table.
Well, that set you up for this table.
Okay.
No, because most people are normal. They just go with the flow, following the sheep and the herd and the. I like being here because, and I would be with them. I was raised Orthodox. It's not like I didn't make trouble for my rabbis, but got back in the. Your relationship with God is twofold. You have a child and an adult. As a child, you didn't choose to be created by God. According to Judaism, the idea that you leave your parents behind, and the word is azov, the Bible says you leave your parents behind and cleave to your wife, is because you're supposed to make a relationship that's more a choice relationship. It's more delicate, more easily broken. So if you look at the idea of Avinu Malkeinu, my father, my king, so your father is a relationship. Your king is a set of rules. Your king is a set of rules. First, we'll look at the interesting way of seeing in Hasidic, but then we're going to go back to us. Is it a relationship or is it a set of rules? The idea is that, for example, as the king's son, you joined the rebellion to overthrow the government. And then the rebellion was crushed. And so the king hangs the rebels. Now, the problem is he has his son. His son became one of the rebels. So, as king, he has to hang him. But as a father, he'd rather not. What does he do? Well, to the extent that the son publicly expresses remorse and accepting that he accepts the king as the king and not there, okay, so they can forgive him. But God as your father has a responsibility to the kingdom. Who's that? Racist.
The world.
Humanity.
The world.
You see it? God has respect. And did you notice it in the davening on Rosh Hashanah, where we didn't talk about the Jewish people? We said, as the Jewish people, we talked about we want the whole world to know.
Mm-hmm.
You know those people. it's, when you ask, is Orthodox Judaism liberal, conservative? It's a strange range. On Rosh Hashanah, the rabbis say, I want you to say the following and think about the words. I want all of those goyim who are in Poland, who are trying to kill you all those pogromists in Russia who are burning down the shul, I want Mashiach to come so they should all know.
Mm-hmm.
In a world where, Joel, are we animals or human beings?
Human beings. We are animals, but human beings are a type of animal.
That's okay. That's only way I can accept it, because the Bible says more extreme in the Kohelet. Umutar adam mina behema oyin. We are both animals and human beings, but the Bible says the difference between a human being and an animal is zero. Human beings are animals who have the theoretical free will to make something better of themselves. We come into this world as animals. For example, in our massive drive to keep ourselves and our species alive, we have hungers for food and hunger for sex, which should explain why a lot of our mitzvos govern limiting our actions when it comes to food and sex, to create a human soul. But we are naturally, my mom said, there's nothing really immoral vis-a-vis good and evil in those acts. Good and evil, Maimonides says, is more, the ethical area of good and evil is between you and your fellow man. Don't say nasty things, don't punch him out, don't steal his, don't kill him. When it comes to you and God, and he includes the laws about kashrus and illicit sex, part of the animal kingdom, nobody's getting hurt. God's just telling you how to create a human being out of you. You're a healthy animal. God said, but I made you as a healthy animal. I want you to make the human being. And that's up to you. You create the you that can connect to God. And when you do it, you actually create an aspect of equality with God. God created the universe. He created the solar system. He created the human race. He created you. What did you create?
What did I create? I created the human being.
You created you.
I heard those muscles.
From the well, okay. You created the you that can connect to God. Right? So, our Father, our King, Avinu Malkeinu. The King has laws, but your Father is the question of a relationship. What if a guy would say, again, I've been at Asia, this is my 41st year, by now I've heard everything. But again, well, hear this semi-regularly. Rabbi, okay, I come to conclusion, what's the minimum I got to do on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? Now, is there anything wrong with a businessman comes to his accountant and says, I want to keep the laws. I want to pay my taxes. It is your business as my accountant to make sure I pay the minimum tax I possibly can, legally. Is there anything wrong with that? No. I remember, and this was back in the 1990s, I remember, and they accused him of anti-Semitism. Donald Trump was sitting there, I think, and it was nothing to do with politics. And he was sitting there with this businessman because you haven't paid tax. You're a billionaire. You haven't paid taxes for 20 years. Can you please explain that? And he's reached down to the next guy with the yarmulke. He says, because I have these accountants that wear little beanies. He picked them out, like that, who make sure that I don't pay taxes. Put them back on. Oh, that anti-Semitic. From Jews love it. No, we also know that I'm not merely a Jew and a Goy, I'm a Jew and an anti-Semite. So, no, if I'm partially anti-Semite, I'm going to mind the Goy who's an anti-Semite.
Why are you saying you're partially anti-Semite?
What?
Why do you say you're partially anti-Semite?
Every Jew is also an anti-Semite.
Because we hate ourselves or what?
Well, the aspect of resenting having to do it, and every Jew that does a little more than you represents. It's not just we Orthodox to the Reform, but within the Orthodox, the guy who's a more modern Orthodox kind of resents the Chassid, and they have their own jokes within the Chassidim about the other ones. because we all feel. Now you could work at it, but if you want to be natural, we all feel. We feel much more holy about the unholy guy. It's so much easier to tolerate an unholy guy because it automatically makes you feel, I'm the holy guy. I can tolerate. But the guy who's more than you, part of you resents it. Part of you resents the guy who's doing this stuff, and he's smiling about it. Damn it, it's really hard. and you know your attitude about doing it. And Those guys at Eish Torah, they just make me feel holy. Those religious guys. It's just a little bit,
But let me ask you
Jonathan?
something. Why? What is it
But we
about?
want to look at both sides. Go ahead about the taxes.
Well,
Go ahead. But go ahead. You go ahead.
What is it about them that makes them do it with a smile?
The relationship.
I don't know what that means.
You can never ask what makes them do anything because they don't exist. With that particular one, so now I have to study him. But I don't study him. I just make things up in my mind about why he does it. You get it? Them don't exist. He does. But why does he do it? Because he's deeply holy, or because that's his way of making me feel uncomfortable with myself? I don't know. I don't know. Them don't exist, and I don't know.
What I struggle with.
Am I making sense a little? You don't know.
What I struggle with is that I feel like for some people it comes a lot more naturally and a lot more easily. Like they're able to.
Sure.
Here's
that guy, and he's never hitting on girls. You know what I mean? Like you. Maybe because he's gay. I don't know. But everybody in the world has the mitzvos that are natural to him and the mitzvos that are very hard. Everybody has that for their own reasons. Everybody has things that are very easy and things that are difficult. You see, that person is so loving it until you go home with them and you see how nasty it is to his wife and kids. I mean, again, don't invent things in our head, but we all have things that are easy and things that are difficult. It's the old story of, and I want to go back to the thing, but I do want to give you guys, it's sort of you are unique, just like everybody else. It's a little bit of both. Go ahead, Jonathan. I'm a sucker for diversion. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, well, don't you think that idea of someone that does it with a smile, a genuine, I think that's just the continual, prolonged working on our relationship with Hashem and moving from Yirat Hashem to Avat Hashem. And that takes a long time, and it's not an easy thing to do. But it's just where some people may be at in their journey, unless they're putting a smile and a phony way, like you said, to make me feel uncomfortable.
No.
But it's just Avat Hashem.
Probably one of our most basic human natures is to want us to feel good about ourselves. And one of those natural, in the world where you are both human, but you're also a child. As a child, you would like to believe that if somebody else is superior to you in some way, he's cheating. I just read recently a Gentile writer in England who wrote about the anti-Semitism in the world, and he wrote it as, it's like, people cannot survive for 3,300 years, that no matter what happens, they land on top. I mean, they just went through a Holocaust. They should be dying off. And instead, they're a nuclear world power. I mean, they must be cheating.
Jealousy.
But it's the jealousy of, they must be cheating. They must be doing something wrong. Now, interestingly enough, Judaism say that is so absolutely true, that's another evidence for God. In other words, when you realize that the Jews are the same, Jews are human beings. We are as capable of negativity and stupidity and childishness as anybody else. It's just that God said, because you are my agents in the world, I cannot allow your stupidity. Nations, sooner or later, have a series of stupidities that wipe them out. It's just God says, I can't allow your stupidity to wipe you out because I need the eternity of the Jewish people to lead humanity where it's supposed to go. And it has to be done by one of them, but human beings, and therefore it has to be. So when you have the world, all of a sudden these pagans become Christians and these pagans become Muslims. Yeah, those Jews, when we do things, the pagans drop their mistakes and put in slowly the stuff of the Jewish people. All right, so they made the mistake and said, Jesus is God's son. No, we can... Does God have, according to Judaism, does God have a son?
Yeah.
Yes. Throughout the Tanakh. No, not all. The Jews. And those, which of course explains the crucifixion of Jesus is the great lesson for the Christians, the crucifying the Jews. You know, God has a son, and you can't kill God, but you can really beat the hell out of his son. But it is, and it's real. It's not a one-time crucifixion. It's a permanent thing of, getting God by beating up his kid. But the words, God is we're the Father, he's our Father and Son, Avinu Malkeinu, which was natural for Judaism, not for pagans. And that even among the Christians, if somebody says God's his Father, his name is Jesus, not Joe the Christian. All right, so but there are realities there. We know where the mistake comes from, but it comes from a reality.
If we're his children, then we're...
In other words, the more a civilization knows that there's a God who gave us a Torah, the more they want to kill us. I mean, it just does make sense, and therefore the Indians and Chinese who have no concept of this being true. So when we say we are God's chosen people, they have a nice day. It's fine.
Yeah.
But
Doesn't threaten.
when it irritates the hell out of you, it's because you have a sneaking suspicion it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If we the Jewish people are his children, then what does that make the Goyim?
Very good. Very good. B'ni B'chori Yisrael, like Israel is my firstborn son. That in the ancient world, the firstborn son was responsible, like a position under the dad for taking care of the other kids. But he was like treated as, it wasn't just big brother, he was like dad's...
Apple of his eye.
Well, the big boy was responsible for the family.
End of the head.
So picture, a guy says to the accountants, I want to pay my fair taxes, not a penny more, right? And you see to it, shuffle my money around, whatever the law says that in that case I pay less taxes. That's perfect. But what if a guy comes to me and says, Rabbi, I come to the conclusion you're right. What's the minimum I have to do for prayer?
Keep Shabbat.
So now, no, but he's right. That he can't. The rabbis would say the attitude is correct. I just don't want you to carry that as a permanent attitude. Mm-hmm. In other words, let's picture this. Jonathan, you're single, right?
Sure.
Excellent. So Jonathan meets a girl and he decides, what?
I'm not, but
oh, you're married?
I'm seeing someone religiously.
No.
Dating.
The rabbi will tell you.
Yeah.
Single.
Not married.
Ain't over till the...
In fact, when my wife and I were engaged and we went to New York to get a blessing from a certain rabbi, we were told he was outraged. And here I was with him, but I didn't know Hasidic. He said, among Hasidim, once you get engaged, you can't see each other till the wedding. Mm-hmm. Because when you're seeing each other, you have the illusion that you're more than single, and you're not.
Mm.
But that. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So Jonathan is legally single here. Okay. So you, and you're not engaged to her, right? All right. So picture this, Jonathan. This is gonna be good. You're going to sit down and you propose, okay, you're now officially engaged, okay. Which Hasidic terms, even yeshiva boys don't go so extreme, but the Hasidim do. At that point, you sit down and Jonathan says, okay, now love of my life, my dear future wife-to-be, let's sit down and talk about what's the minimum that you expect of me to maintain a good marriage. Bad news, right? All right, so why is it that some stuff, it's perfectly legitimate to figure out, and really, a guy, every so often you have a guy come at age turn 2 weeks later, he's wearing a long black coat. It's clearly a mistake. But it's a process, because it's not law, it's a process. The laws of Torah are actually a skeleton, they're not the whole body. The Talmud says you can be a novel b'shus HaTorah, you can be a totally despicable person in the eyes of God without violating Torah. So, for example, you're a glutton and you sit there. Food is the most important thing for you, and you're 400 pounds. But it's always glatt kosher, and you're always having sex because you have 20 wives. I mean, again, the laws are actually a skeleton. You can't do without it, but it's not.
We have 20, I thought it was only 18 wives, and I thought that was outlawed to Rabbanon.
No, that's only a king. You, as many as you want.
Okay, but wasn't it outlawed to Rabbanon?
Rabbinically, you only have one wife, right? Rabbinically, it's not even rabbinically. It's not rabbinical. It's custom. Right. It's not rabbinical. If it would be rabbinical, they would be bound. It's that you do. Me, you, and your wife will talk about it later. Let's focus attention here. Okay.
Deal.
Is this the skeleton? Is the skeleton? You're saying it's just the skeleton of.
That the laws are the skeleton. You can't do without it, but you want to understand the body that the skeleton's trying to. And therefore, Maimonides says you don't do tshuva just over violating a law. You do tshuva for an attitude. And very often, breaking the law will give you an area where the attitudes are. But so picture the idea about your father, your king. King is an aspect of the laws that you're bound, to the do's and the don'ts. But while there's a limited amount of mitzvot, 613, there's the infinite degree of how superficial or how deep you can do a mitzvah. The laws are numbered. Each law and the question of a relation is there's an infinite degree of how superficial or how deep you can be. That is really what we're talking about in terms of relationship, that you get married, and if it really works out, you realize that when you got married, it was very superficial compared to what it is now. Maimonides talks about the idea, and I'll go back and forth in this. There's laws, but there's attitude, and that the real question is not what do I. You start with the thing of saying, I am me, and then I'm going to look at, and the Torah says, I'm a Jewish me, I should do A, B, and C, and X, I shouldn't do X, Y, and Z. You got everybody really, because everybody's a relative Baal Tshuva compared to the guy who's much more than them. So everybody has a right to say, whoa, okay, I'll do some of that stuff, I'm not going to do all that stuff. All right, everybody has a right to look at, I think it's like going to a gym. You want to work out your 98-pound weakling and you want to build a bit of muscle. It's like going to a gym. First, you got to get a good personal trainer, otherwise known as God in this case, but okay, or the rabbi who is one of his agents, but a good one. Then, in the gym, if you work out too much, then 2 weeks later you'll be so achy you'll never come again, and you say this thing is just the pits. Those are the guys who come twice a year. Rabbi Noah Weinberg said, they're guys who come twice a year. One day Rosh Hashanah, one day Yom Kippur. He said, now don't make fun of the guys who go Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, because when you look at the statistics in America, this was 40 years ago, 50%, if you look at all the shuls, Orthodox, conservative, all the synagogues, temples, the amount of people they described, half of the adult Jewish population doesn't go to shul. And therefore, don't make fun of the two guy here, because he's on the upper 50% of American Jewry. He said, the reason he's making a mistake is he's picking the wrong 2 days a year. This is Noah Weinberg. Picture, I'd say, okay, if I'm only going 2 days a year, I'm going to make it tough. I'm going to Rosh Hashanah, 5 hours davening, then Yom Kippur all day, and at the end of that, okay, man, I'm all Jewed out, but I paid my dues on Judaism, and you, all your life, you're going to see Judaism as torture. That anybody who decides that 2 days a year he's going to go to shul, stay home on Rosh Hashanah and stay home on Yom Kippur.
Or Shabbat.
Purim.
If 2 days is Purim and Simchat Torah, let's just go to the right places and celebrate. Purim and Simchat Torah, because God is infinite, and because, am I a Jew or an idol worshiper? What's my favorite answer?
Oh,
Both. In other words, I see God as the one who, okay, in a way I'm doing it also because I'm a child. So my father says, brush your teeth and do your homework, and I think he's making me do it for him, not realizing that it doesn't help him, it helps me. But to understand that God is infinite, you're here to make the connection to him. And for that you have to be more of an adult and understand that. As an adult, you have to understand that your relationships are only as strong as the one who wants it least. So between you and your wife, it could fluctuate. Sometimes she is putting more into it. Sometimes you're putting more into it. In general, they're putting in more into it, if only for the fact that we are both animals and human beings. And as part of the animal kingdom, the female is much more, sees her relationship with the male in the jungle as life and death, while you see it as sexual opportunity. I mean, purely, the male wants to plant seeds, and the female saying, "I'll let him do it because I need somebody to take care of me in the jungle." And therefore, we may call it, she's more into love and more into relationship. Yeah, she as part of the animal kingdom, she needs it more. But to understand that a relationship is only as strong as the one who wants it least. Between you and anybody else, that can fluctuate. Sometimes it's ones, again, even though you'd say women will do more anything to get married than men, but it fluctuates. But when it comes to God, there's no fluctuation. God is infinite love. And he's infinite, and he's infinite love, which means he doesn't need it at all. And therefore, his involved. What if a guy would say to you, well, if God is infinite and he doesn't need it, he doesn't care about you. If God is infinite and he doesn't need anything, does it kind of mean he doesn't care about the relationship?
well, then why would it make you?
What are you saying, Joel?
No, I don't think that's what it means.
Correct. But why doesn't it? If he doesn't need it, maybe it means it.
Well, the stronger relationships are the ones that you don't need but you choose.
Very good. In other words, I'll just picture this. The more you're in a relationship because of need, let's suppose, your boss is a multimillionaire and he has, the more you're in a relationship because of need, the less it's because you care. Right? The less you in it, if you're less needy, you're multi-billion, you don't need it. The less you need, the more it's because of care. Only God is two extremes. Zero need equals infinite caring. See, we are so self-absorbed. We say, like, if he doesn't need it. No, it's not God. It's you. You know that if you really didn't need somebody, you wouldn't much be into the relationship. I mean, but really we're saying that's not a relationship. And so you start out with more need and more two-sided needing, and then you invest in each other. But with God, if the more you need, the less it's caring, the less you need, the more it's caring. God is the only extreme. Zero need equals infinite caring. Precisely because he doesn't need it. It's purely the relationship. We come to it as children. Namely, somebody's going to take care of me. And for example, when they look at 7, 8, 9-year-olds, when the disaster happens, their parents die in a car crash, they are horrified and terror-stricken. What does it come down to? Who's going to take care of me? You take somebody in the family or somebody and pile a huge amount of expensive toys right together. It's shocking as to how quick they can be smiling. I mean, that's the way it is. We are radically self-absorbed, especially children. And so we start with what's called fear of God. which is the reality of the fact that we're totally needy, and then hopefully to get to the point of appreciation, to love. But if you can picture the idea that you start out in any relationship with your wife, you can, but the most important, with God, you start the relationship saying, I am me. Let's look at what this will cost me, or what this will. Perfectly sensible. I mean, even in marriage. You go out, you don't marry the first girl. You go out and say, I'm going to demand a little too much from me. I mean, it's perfectly legitimate. We really start in a relationship with total self. That's why the rabbis tell us, you don't marry a girl because you love her. You marry a girl because you love you. Jack, how old are you?
Me too.
Are you single?
Yep.
Okay, do you have a permanent girlfriend?
No.
Okay, so this may work out. Jack, do you want to get married one day?
Yes.
Yes. No, he doesn't realize he's fallen into the trap already. So, number one, Jack would like to get married one day. Question number two, do you know the name of the girl that you will one day marry? No. And therefore, as long as answer to question number one is, yes, I want to get married, and answer question number two is, I have no idea who I'm marrying, clearly you represent the male population, which says, I think getting married will be good for me. I really don't give a damn who she is. I'm going to find somebody that will be good for me. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Just don't fool yourself into thinking you're going to marry a girl because you love her. The rabbis say, what fools you? What's your favorite food?
A molten chocolate lava cake.
He knows what he wants.
Aren't you jealous of those slim, muscular guys? They can eat anything. They can eat anything. No, Jack. So would you say, I love molten lava cake? I love it?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, you don't, because if you loved it, you would take care of it. You don't sit and eat it and turn the remnant into brown and flush it down the toilet. That's not what you do with something you love.
Well, it doesn't have to be turned around. It's already there.
Yeah, I got you. Hey, I love a good steak, like that. No. What Jack says, I love Jack. Destroying that, whatever, pleases the one I truly love. Be careful about girlfriends doing the same thing. So what you want to understand, according to Judaism, you get married, and so Haredim say, cut out the crap. You're two strangers under the chuppah. By the way, most psychologists will say, whoever's under the chuppah are two strangers, But we've been dating for 3 years. Oh my God, you've each been fooling each other for 3 years as to who you really are in order to get the other guy to marry you. What happens when they find out who you really are? Yeah. At any rate, you start the marriage where you're saying, I want somebody that's good for me. She's saying, I want somebody that's good for me. According to the Torah, you have 1 year to make her happy, which is another way of saying that in that first year, she's going to be a hell of a lot more shocked than you are. At any rate, we're talking 3,300 years ago. Torah saying, real careful that first year. That's okay, because the most important thing you need with God, see, when you start out by saying, I am me, now I'm finding out about God, I'm going to see what would take to make. Judaism would say, for example, when Maimonides says you change your name. Jack, right? What's your Hebrew name?
Yitzhak Meir.
Itchemeyer. Wow. I know it's Yitzhak Meir, but you never heard anybody call it Itchemeyer?
Right, for sure.
You heard?
No, you've only we met in that. You call me that.
Okay. No, that's a real... No, it's in the Hasidic world, it's a combination of big rabbis. A combination of two names that... He was the first Ger Rebbe of the lineage, and then now there's somebody else. Anyway, you go into a place, a Hasidic place, and that's what's your name, Itchemeyer. You're going to see that a little bit. So anyway, maybe you could see it like this. They tell you know what a yeka is? What's a yeka, Joel? You never heard of it? The phrase?
Nope.
German Jew.
Yeka is a German. Yeka means a jacket. So when the Jews were wearing long coats, they're the first ones that changed to in European to wear jackets. Jacket. There's nothing wrong with them. So they're called yekas, the jackets. So the Germans and Jews are known as German Jews, Germans. Ever since the Holocaust, we try to separate. But so they tell the story that yekas, when you tell a yeka a joke, he laughs 3 times. The first time when you tell him the joke, he laughs. The second time is when he says it over to somebody else. He laughs when he tells the joke over. The third time he laughed is when he finally gets it. Consider the following possibility. Bali Tshuva, I find from the guys I know, long after they become Torah observant, they come to say, holy smoke, this Judaism isn't here to tell me what to do, it's here to tell me who I am. Guy's English name is Christopher, but his Hebrew name is Chaim. Okay, it's an extreme, but it's a good example. When I say you're a Jew and a Goy, Jack, have you ever bowed down to an idol, like a rock and so? No? So it's good news, but in the Bible, so many Jews got caught up in idolatry. You never did it? You never bowed down to idols? So the good news is you've never done it. Can I tell you the bad news is that it's likely that the reason you never did it is because your goyim don't do it. But when we look at ourselves at any given... Let me give you an example. And it's nothing to do with bad or good. It's just, who am I? A couple of months ago, I had 2 yeshiva guys. One guy, and he brought his friend for a meal on Shabbos. They were both in the Mir yeshiva. Black, dark suit, white shirt, snappy yeshiva boy. And they're very similar. It's just one of them was talking about that he loves watching basketball games, and the other one, he didn't care about basketball, he loves soccer. Can you explain why is it the one guy likes basketball and the other guy likes soccer?
They like to conform.
No, but then why is one basketball and one soccer?
There's-
What?
One's British.
Yeah.
they're
One was raised in New York and the other was raised in London. In other words, even the guy you think is totally Jewish, again, it's not a bad thing. It's just that he not only, when I say he's a Jew and a Goy, as a guy in Mir, it's that this group of Goyim caused him to think that this is a significant event taking place. And the other guy's in London, so his Goyim don't tell you the basketball is significant, they tell you soccer. And that world begins to create a you. There's nothing bad about it, but you have to be aware of the reality that we are both individuals, part of a group. We are massively part. Because really, only when you know that, for example, you will understand where you live is, I think it was Einstein that said one of his major mottos was live consciously. Be aware of of why you do things that you do. Because the younger a person is, the more he thinks he's an individual, when I think we're 99% the result of a group, because we want to really think that we are we. In fact, and all the advertisers want us to think that when we choose to buy something, it has nothing to do with the trillions of dollars, billions of dollars they spent to sell trillions of dollars of stuff. But of course it did. We know it was nothing. They know how to take control of your mind. So that you don't say, well, I'm going to buy this because he ran this ad. I'm going to buy it because I want it. Because they're the ones who determine what you want. And with that, it's a little more to understand that there's only one guy in existence that has you in mind totally when he tells you to do things, and that's God, because he doesn't need anything from you. So when he tells you that it's good for you to do this and not do that, he's the only one that is taking care of you rather than him. And to understand that you start out saying, I know who I am me, but I'm going to become more Torah observant. That's fine. But don't be surprised that somewhere along the way, and it may have almost in a number of different places in your life, realizing the Torah is not to tell you what to do. It's really telling you who you are. According to Judaism, you'll only know for sure the moment you die. But you don't want it to be a big shock, you know what I mean? When body and soul separate and you say, who am I? To understand that the process is that the Kotzker Rebbe says, when a Jew dies, he goes from this world to the world to come. When a tzaddik dies, he goes from one room to another. In other words, you don't want there to be a this world and the world to come. You want there to be a changing of scenario, of wallpaper. As you want to, and the older you get, the more natural it'll be, because I'm telling you, I can see it. You know, look at Jack. Boy, was I at 22? Was I jealous of a guy's good, strapping guy like Jack? At 76, I found it much easier. I relate to him like his grandfather. I think. But to understand that you always want to keep in mind, Torah on a simple level, he's the king. He tells you what to do. But Avinu, your father, it's really, the information is there to tell us who we are. Have you ever heard of behavior modification therapy and then cognitive therapy? And the cognitive is knowing in your head. Behavior modification is, don't worry what you're thinking, do the act that changes you. Judaism is Torah and mitzvahs, which is both, cognitive therapy and behavior modification. But you can't do it without both. I want you to think about it and understand. But until you do the stuff, you really haven't really changed you. This strange combination. But on a simple level, I know who I am. It's doing this and not doing it. But keep in mind the possibility, I think the reality, that I'm here to find out who I am and then create a me that's a better me. Question?
I was going to say, you said something earlier about like loving yourself, and I was going to say that part of my journey that enabled me to find my wife and then like find this in general was the ultimate realization that real good marriage is you love yourself significantly, and you find somebody else who loves themselves significantly, and then you guys decide that you want to share that love of yourselves with each other. And that was something that...
Very good. And the fact that because you two making that decision, you can end up with children, but just like with your children, there are no mistakes. God gives you a child that you can love. Not because he's your child, because you're a giver. What if a person comes and says, what if a married girl and I end up not loving her? What if you end up marrying a girl and having a child and end up not loving the child? Judaism says, love comes from giving. And therefore you will. That's people don't worry about loving their child because they think it's automatic. It's almost automatic because you give to the child so much, you invest in yourself in it. They are shocking. If you invested in your wife that much, you would love her automatically too. It's just that as an adult male, and it's an adult selfish self, you can picture, well, I'm doing it for me and it's not working out well. Judaism would say actually the difficult times are the ones that make it most real, just like difficult times are what makes a movie most real, you know what I mean, like life. But yeah, to understand, it's with your wife, with your kids. You can choose to love by choosing to give.
What kind of rabbi was it you saw in Brooklyn when you said you went to go get a blessing from a rabbi?
The Skolena Rebbe, we were told, he was like in jail a lot after World War II in Romania because Romania went communist, but he was raising kids as Jewish and doing more and more Jewish stuff, and the Romanians would torture him every time he'd be in jail a lot. And he then finally got out, and he was in Williamsburg, and we were told, you go to him to get a blessing. The guy who suffered last. Yeah.
So what's the big deal with the name plus like all the stuff that I need to do tshuva for? Is with my.
I was told, very good. I should talk more about it. But just in simple terms, we see our names are us. Our names are us. And therefore, when you have a Hebrew name and an English name, and part of you want to be a Jew and part of you want to be a Goy. Is it so far-fetched that every frum kid also wants to be handsome and have going think he's a good-looking kid, you know? Part of us, it's both there. And therefore, who we choose to present ourselves as has a big part to play in who we think we are or who we think we could be.
But all the stuff they need to achieve for is definitely from the non-Jew name.
And therefore, good. Let's say, and therefore,
I don't know, shouldn't I, did you achieve it for that with that name?
no, the name isn't. Don't go blame your name. It was not your name that did it. It was you. You saw it as, and I'm saying that when my money said change up, you see yourself as Dylan. I'm saying that if you saw yourself as David Shlomo, you'd see yourself as different. I love you either way. Okay?
Perhaps it's like
But can you see the idea, like who we are? And my mind said, and they changing it. Like, who am I? But do you see? Can you see it? As your clothing, as long as you don't pick up your clothes in a dumpster, clothing automatically. Let's look at clothing being sold in Goyish world. It depends who. It's like. Remember, you are 97% unconscious of your motivations for doing anything. So can you picture the idea that when you buy clothing, you are unconscious of the advertisement or the people you saw in a movie or people you saw on TV? But when you buy that stuff, you unconsciously say, I want to be seen as that guy, as opposed to this other guy. And that's why they pay good-looking actors to wear certain clothes. Oh, is that crazy? No, it really works. Again, they're not stupid. When you got money, come on in. But that's the way it works. I want to be